Happy Fixed Blade Friday, everybody. Today, I'm going to call it completion of the Captain Electro Knife Makers Challenge. Must have been at least a month now. I kind of slacked off on documenting my use of this knife, but I did keep it on me for the whole month, and I used it a lot, and every day I became more and more pleased with this knife. It is like a blessing to me. I don't know how I did it. I came at this with very little knife experience. It was my first stock removal project, but I was inspired, really inspired. Over the last couple of years, I've become obsessed with knives. I always liked knives, but I became obsessed. And I looked at a lot of knives, I studied a lot of knives, I sharpened a lot of knives, I made a few, and I came out with this. So let's recap. What is this? It's a woods knife, a bush knife. So it's a multi-tool. It has various functions, but it should in principle be able to do anything that you would do with just about any knife. It's not going to excel at slicing because it's very thick, especially here. But it is slim there. And so in the manner of a hawkbill or a bill hook, this is, under certain circumstances, very slicey. You can slash with it. You can chop with it. You could, cut it on a cutting board in this manner. It is very much influenced by the William Collins compound grind knives. However, William Collins knives start out here as a Scandi, and then they transition. So let's say that from about here forwards, it's William Collins style, but back here, this is, I believe it's unique. I haven't really seen another knife that has this kind of profile. So I'm calling it a triphasic design, or excuse me, a triphasic grind, because it sounds kind of cool, maybe a little pretentious, but it cuts in 3 phases. If you were to start cutting here it widens out, it hits a tooth, and then here it goes into a flat grind. So 1, 2, 3. And so you can, if you're, let's say you're slashing, then you're basically using the whole blade. If you're pruning, so you're holding and you're pulling in this direction, you're mostly, say, using this part and this part. If you were to be chopping like this, you would be maybe running onto here, but mostly using this. When you're chopping, you really tend to focus around this area, right? Now here and here, of course, they get involved. And so even though it is thinner here, that's still got a lot of meat here on the flat grind, or here. And it is a little different in the use to a lot of, to a knife that doesn't have this kind of recurve. It's more like a bill hook in the manner of use, in that you're cutting, you would try to always keep your hand and wrist in front of the, excuse me, I'll try and demonstrate. So let's say I were going to cut into this were so I would keep my hand and my wrist in front of the blade. See how my hand is already in front of the thing that is about to get chopped. If I'm chopping down, similarly, instead of going this way, you can go this way. And you're pulling and hooking in here. It's marvelous. It works really well. Now, as I say, I can't really take credit for much here, because design-wise, it's all been done before. It's just that I combined some different elements in a way that I believe is new and unique. And I did make the knife, and it came out well. It came out with a bit of a twist and this and that, but because I just keep, and lots of scratches on it still. Well, so yes, I did want to say that I have an ambition, and that is kind of also why I accepted this challenge from Captain Electro, the Knife Makers Challenge, because I want to get this knife out there. I don't know exactly how, but I mean, I think the thing to do would be for me to make more of them and try and get people to try them and maybe buy them or test them or what have you. So a major consideration there is that to get this knife to where it is now, I at a guesstimate, including everything, let's say from starting with the whittled wooden prototype and all the drawings and up to where it is now, maybe 100 hours in, right? So that's not a very commercial proposition that it takes me 100 hours to make a knife. So what I have to do is obviously figure out how to make them faster. And so this is a project that I have in mind, is to make maybe, I don't know, a run of 10 and see how quickly I can do that. And see if I can get them out there and have people try them and test them and so forth. And I think that if I can offer this at a competitive price, it will sell. And then the challenge for me will be to meet demand. Because even if there isn't much demand, it's a challenge for me. So that's also why I did my Knife Reviewers Challenge. And my Knife Reviewers Challenge is me making chisel knives rather than this knife, because I can make one of these chisel knives in maybe just 50 hours instead of 100, right? So yeah, speaking of that, here's a fixed blade. I've shown this in various videos. The only thing to point out now is that I got the magnet in here in the sheath. I put it in there with some epoxy putty. I waxed the blade and then put the blade in, put the sheath the knife in and then put that in so the wax would make sure that the blade didn't get epoxy on it if any kind of made its way through the gaps there. So now this is just about ready. I just got to file the brass down a little more and then put the leather on. And I think what I'm going to do is leave some tags on the leather on either side so that eyes could be put in, and then it could also go onto an ulti clip or something like that. Although in principle, the idea was for it to be a neck knife. And so we can. I checked the retention by shaking this as hard as I possibly could, pretty much. And when I did that, the knife flew out and it bounced off the floor, having landed on this bone bolster here. So the knife came away completely unscathed. The floor probably got another dent in it. But this is not going to come out under any normal circumstance. So when I pull here, I can feel the resistance from the magnet. And now it's given way. And here, maybe, I don't know, I guess I was hoping that the magnet would kind of suck it in. Maybe it'll get there, but I don't know if the magnet would be pulling it all the way, because the tip is past the center point. Oh, whoopsie daisy. Oh yeah, that was funny. So yeah, I had this epoxy here, and so I picked up a file just to file it down. Tonk! And yeah, you can't, now you got this on there. I can't use a metal file to work on this brass either. Which is slightly inconvenient, really. I have, the diamond file is the thing to do to work on that, but forget it. So, okay, we looked at that. And Fixed Blade Friday, this is a fixed blade, because I got it out this morning because I'm using bill hooks and so forth to do battle with some kind of invasive vine that I've got taking over. And to get in and do the detail work, I was thinking hawkbill. And I have a collection of hawkbill knives, almost entirely slip joints. And they work, the old slip joint hawkbill is an amazing thing that works so well. I'm going to make a whole video about hawkbills and show off some of my collection. They're so slicey compared to this. This thing was thick and it had a very low kind of saber grind. Anyway, it was also warped all over the place. So I thought, well, this thing looks like it could work really well, but I'm going to have to sharpen it up and I'm going to have to straighten it out. And because I have carbide hammers now, I can tap things straight. Well, yeah, I'm tapping on the point, and I snapped the point off. I snapped maybe I don't know if a quarter of an inch or an eighth of an inch off the tip there. That was just totally warped and all over the place. And in fact, I think the metal was probably burned, because once I started sharpening it, at first the metal was so soft, but once I got deeper in, it got good. So that's consistent with the notion, of course, that this thing was made fairly thin, heat treated so that it warped, and then they ground the warped blade nice and hard, which caused it to go even more FU. And so breaking it wasn't a bad thing at all. It had too much of a point on it anyway. That point will tend to hang up on things, depending on what you're using it for. But for my use, I think the profile... I also put an extra recurve in here that wasn't there to start out. There was a straight line pretty much from there to there. So that gap that you see, totally unfocused, is what I put in so that you can hook in there to start your cut. Otherwise, the problem, which is resolved with the old slip joint hawkbills by having a whacking grate, whatever that protuberance is called there, that hits the back spring. So that's the backstop, right? That part also, and they don't put any choil. So, you go up to there, you get your vine in there or whatever. It's got nowhere to go, and once it hits that point, you're going through, right? This design with the belly on it and so forth is not nearly as good to use in that regard for pruning, I don't think. But it has an advantage in the actual cutting. It's just that it doesn't feel as locked in. It slides around more because of that. But if you're slashing, you get, first of all, you get this, which is very thin now. I thinned that out a lot. I'm doing my convex on this, so it's going to be like a saber vex. So right here is very thin. Here is a little thicker. Here is a little thicker. And here I left it fairly robust. But I'm thinning out the point as well. And so now it's a very interesting performance when it comes to slashing and for pruning. And also, then this area here is just like a mini hawkbill. You can grab it like this. There are all kinds of interesting ways that you can hold this. None of them especially comfortable, but all of them give you excellent grip. I'm so impressed with this knife now. I think it must be from the 90s. Frost Cutlery. It was made in China. 440 stainless. And it's a wicked tool. And we went out. I'm gonna probably use it for a bit of skinning, because I went out with the dogs on the four-wheeler and found a baby deer, a dead Bambi. I don't know what happened, but it was already dead and cold, but it looked very recently dead. And the dogs just completely ignored it. They acted like it wasn't even there. So I figure it must be super fresh, because if it were alive, they would be very excited about it. And if it were long dead, then they would also be very excited. They'd be rolling in it and, you know, wrestling with it and what have you. So I don't know. I just take it as a gift. You know, I'm going to try and skin it and see whether I can cure the pelt, and we'll see the condition of the meat. If it's good, we'll be having some venison, baby venison. I mean, you know, something that in my life I wouldn't have expected to probably eat, you know, a baby deer. I don't know if I'll eat it, but the dogs will probably eat it. You know. I'm rambling, aren't I? Hey, check this out. I'm going to do product placement on my channel, but I'm not going to do product placement, you know, for shilling for people. I'm just going to say, hey, there's this product and I think it's really good. And so I want to tell you about it. So this is called Enlight, this brand, and they make copper water bottles. They have them made in India out of pure copper. You put your water in there, and it purifies the water, and it's, you know, super fandabi doobie. So nowadays, you know, everyone likes to have their own water flask. The stainless steel has become very ubiquitous and popular, and that's cool. But come on, copper is where it's at.